I'm Emily Rooney. This is Beat the Press on Contrarian Boston. I'm joined here today by Contrarian Boston editor Scott Van Voorhees, Dan Kennedy of Northeastern University and Media Nation, and Lila Alphonse, Boston Globe editor for both the Rhode Island and New Hampshire bureaus. All right, we got a bunch of things we're talking about today. We're going to start with partisan coverage of the attack on Iran, the growing tentacles of Paramount Skydance, and more departures from CBS, the role of AI in news gathering, and our panel's rants and raves of the week. First, it was 9:40 a.m. local time in Iran when the U.S. and Israel attacked the compound of Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, killing him and other commanders. That not such a surprise assault is getting mixed reactions around the world and in the media. Here's CBS from Saturday night.
That's why I get really upset when I see some anti-war Americans taking to the streets, my fellow citizens, take to the street to celebrate the killing of a terrorist. Because this is not about politics. This is all about normal life, having dignity for Iranians. We share the same values. You want these terrorists? Don't feel sorry for terrorists. Feel sorry for my people inside Iran.
So that is a new hire from Bari Weiss at CBS News. Her name is Masa Alanejad, and she's clearly partisan. And Tony had to use her on the broadcast the other night. Dan, I know you've been watching a variety of different news sources this week since the attacks in Iran. What's your sense of how the fairness of the coverage?
Well, one of the things that strikes me about the coverage of this is how different it is from the run up to the war in Iraq. What was it, 12, 13 years ago at this point, maybe longer than that. Um, the New York Times in particular was infamous for really greasing the skids in the run up to the war in Iraq, giving a lot of credibility to the idea that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. And this time, the Times and every other news outlet that I have looked at has really been digging in deep on the idea that Donald Trump has not tried to make any case for the attack against Iraq, that it violates possibly the congressional law as well as international law. And there's been much more skepticism, I think.
Hmm.
Funny thing is, I actually spent an hour watching Fox News Sunday night. I thought, well, this might be interesting. And it was anchored by Will Cain. I mean, you do get a different feel from Fox News on the weekend sometimes. And it was a pretty straight newscast.
Mm.
I was, there were a lot of things they should have said that they left out, but it wasn't like Sean Hannity ranting and
Yeah.
raving. It was a pretty good presentation.
Lila, one of the things that struck me is watching the local news anyway over the weekend and some of the national news. Our delegation is Democratic. I mean, so they're all anti-war. And so you get an sort of an imbalanced approach right then and there because you're news gathering from the people who represent us. But that's not the case across the country. I think probably other areas you're getting more balance. What do you think?
I don't know that I'd call it more balance as much as I'd call it different partisanship.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back a teeny bit against you, Dan. It's not the idea that it's against congressional law. It is against congressional law. We
Oh,
don't
for
have
sure.
congressional authorization. It is against international law. So it's more than just like the idea of it. But I also want to note that it's worth remembering all the legit news gatherers from legit news organizations were kicked out of the room at the Pentagon. Like they didn't agree to only cover the things that the Pentagon had sanctioned. So what we're getting now from the mainstream media in the US, and I think part of the reason why we're not getting a lot of details from international news, is you're getting a Pentagon approved reports from right-wing news outlets and media personalities like J6 or Brandon Straka, who was boasting on Twitter earlier today that he was at the Pentagon for the briefing. Um, today, I believe, our Washington team told me that New York Times, AP, others were in the back of the briefing room, but they don't have space in the
Hmm.
Pentagon anymore to report on these developments. That is a key difference from the last run up to the war, where the New York Times, at least, was getting information from a primary source. We're not doing that now in the same way. So we're not seeing as much real information, I think, in the mainstream media as much as we're seeing approved statements and numbers from the key players, Iran's government-controlled media, Israel's, and frankly, ours.
Hmm. Another thing that struck me, Scott, is that since the war in Iraq, 12, whenever it was, things are so much more immediate now. I mean,
Sure.
we first hear about a school has been bombed and 175 girls are dead. I was
Sure.
skeptical about that, but then things get confirmed much more quickly too. And largely there's a lot more intelligence on the ground, but there's social media, which is contributing to the reporting as well.
Yeah, I mean, everything has changed. So everything has gone so rapidly or developed so fast here in a way like the long run up to the Iraq War. And at least there was some effort to get, congressional buy-in and international buy-in. This isn't any effort at all. It's just in contrast to what past presidents have done, or even maybe Trump has done so far, this is a war. He's saying it's a war. That's different from a quick, even that can be debated, but military action against a terrorist or something very limited. So we've kind of jumped the gun here, and it's all happened so fast. But with social media, things can be confirmed, fairly quickly. I think with the reporting, I mean, I think the best reporting always comes from working your sources, right? And I don't think the Washington Post has the same sources they used to have, and that's where you get a lot of this inside stuff. Like I'm wondering, okay, you've told the Iranian people, Trump has told the Iranian people, rise up. Well, is there any effort to help them? I mean, in the Cold War, you'd have, CIA running arms or whatever, whether that's good or bad. It seems kind of suicidal to say, go out, run out in the street and get shot down. So you're not seeing that from the Washington Post. New York Times certainly has those sources, and we'll start to hear some stuff. But I mean, all the official briefings. I mean, they're always going to say the same thing, right? I mean, look at Vietnam; they were lying all the way through, and it really took people who had good sources or on the ground to figure out, which what we hear, what was going on.
Yeah, I
You know,
mean, access to the Pentagon, I don't think really means all that much. And it really strikes me that the Times is taking a far more skeptical and tough tone this time than they did in the run-up to the war in Iraq.
hey, I was going to
That,
ask you
that,
about that, but isn't that because they're anti-Trump?
uh, no, I don't think so. I think, first of all, when you look at the run-up to the war in Iraq, as disingenuous as George W. Bush may have been, it was still in the immediate aftermath of the terrorist attacks of 9/11, and the whole country was still on edge as a result of that. The other thing is that the Bush administration was putting out a lot of information, most of which turned out to be wrong, but information nevertheless, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And the Times in particular fell for that hard.
We
Uh,
remember.
this time, as Scott says, Trump is making absolutely no attempt to sell this war at all. He's just doing it. And I think that the Times and the rest of the press, most of the rest of the press, has been properly calling him to account for that.
All right, moving on. This week, Netflix dropped its $83 billion bid to take over Warner Brothers, which virtually guarantees a merger will take place with Paramount Skydance. They offered 111 billion dollars. It's hard to even get that figure out, which puts them in charge now of CNN, CBS, TikTok, Oracle, Warner Brothers, and that's just a few of the conglomerates in the empire. Apparently, the Warner Brothers people thought Netflix would be the lesser of two evils, and certainly CNN must have thought that too. Now, Larry Ellison and Son are about to control this vast media empire, and they say they've got about $6 billion cuts in synergy, which translated means they're going to lay off about $6 billion worth of people. Um, Lila, what's your take on that? It's hard to, I don't understand even how, well, because it's the Trump administration, I guess they'll approve the merger, but whatever happened to, you know, antitrust? You know?
I've wondered that too. Like, how is this not monopolizing
Yeah.
everything? But now, I mean, Trump will approve the merger because now you've got Trump-aligned billionaires owning, controlling Warner Brothers, CNN, CBS, Twitter, Facebook, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Fox Corp. And then there's still the traditional right-wing media that pretends they're alternative. You still have OAN and Newsmax, Breitbart, Daily Wire, Tucker Carlson. It's not exactly state-controlled media as far as I'm concerned, but it's very, very state-friendly media. And it coupled with ostracizing traditional legacy media, it really offers an opportunity for um, ownership of a narrative as much as ownership of the actual outlets.
Mhm. You know, Scott, I can't help but think about Anderson Cooper, who just recently left 60 Minutes, and clearly it was over editorial differences with Chief Bari Weiss. Now, the same owners are going to be at CNN, and I wonder if they would dare put Bari Weiss in charge over there too, and how a whole CNN staff is going to react to this.
I've heard
Yeah,
that
I mean,
rumor.
who knows? It could happen. I
Yeah.
mean, who thought she would have got, they've been appointed to run CBS News. I mean, she really didn't have a background or management background or the background for that. But that could be the case. Or they'll find somebody like her. I mean, that's the direction it seems to be going in, but it's frustrating. But it's also, I wonder if the market starts to sort it out. And the market can't, that maybe that's giving it too much power. But at some point, if you're getting an overload of this kind of a right, center right, or even kind of right wing commentary and news, you've got to think there's going to be, you're missing half the country, right? So I do wonder whether is that really going to work for their ratings if they just try to be Fox News, CNN?
Dan, you're somewhat of an expert more than all of us on this whole acquisitions and mergers stuff. I mean, how is this possible that this is going to be allowed? Is it because it's the Trump administration? I mean, why?
Yes, I mean, it's illegal on
Okay.
the face of it.
Yeah.
Antitrust really hasn't worked for decades. Now, when Joe Biden was president, he had an antitrust chief who was trying to make antitrust law great again. But she had barely gotten her efforts off the ground when I'm sorry, Biden didn't get voted out, but when Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump came back in, that was the end of that, and they're going to approve it strictly on that basis. Frankly, the Netflix acquisition is something that shouldn't have been approved
Sure.
either. That was the second worst possible outcome, but they said, hey, let's just go for the worst possible outcome, and that's what we've got. I have to say, in its current iteration, I'm not a big fan of CNN, although I do like the fact that they have enormous reporting capacity around the world. I just don't think they make proper use of it. The problem is, there was always a chance of redeeming CNN as long as it was part of another media organization. But now that it's been subsumed into this Trump-friendly Warner Brothers Discovery conglomeration, it's not going to be good at all.
Mm. I'm still a big consumer of CNN. I mean, I listen to it on the radio. I know I'm like manic. I don't know why. And I really I wonder. I mean, there's, Wolf Blitzer hasn't missed a day. I can't even, since the station went on the air, since CNN went on the air in what, 82 or 84 or whatever it was. He was working all weekend long. I mean, how's he going to react? It's like, start trying to force feed what these people are, reporting. It's going to be tough.
I
Oh,
have
I
to
thought you
wonder.
meant Wolf Blitzer hadn't missed a day since CNN went on the air, which I could believe.
I did say that. I
Oh,
think.
yeah, well, that's quite a record. Yeah.
I have to wonder whether there's a lack of a generational impact here. I'm looking at my Gen Z and millennial kids, and they don't watch it.
No,
Like
of course not.
they don't care. This isn't how they get their news. I
Yeah.
mean, some of them, the older ones do a lot more reading because they can get more in depth. The younger ones, the 19-year-old, the 21-year-old, they're going straight to what they consider the source, which is social media, which means that this monopoly is not going to impact them at all.
Yeah. Except I always push back on that because where do they think social media got their reporting from? They stole it from some mainstream news media like the New York Times or the Boston Globe or
Or they see
CBS or
it,
CNN.
or they see people with their cell phones on the ground where the reporters are not.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to move on and talk a little bit more about CBS because, as we all know, earlier this year, Paramount Skydance took them over, and the Ellisons, Larry being the father who started Oracle, David is now in charge of really this enormous media conglomerate. He was the one who put Bari Weiss in charge. As I said a few minutes ago, Anderson Cooper recently left because he was unhappy over the direction 60 Minutes was going. This week, veteran news producer Mary Walsh left. She's a big loss for 60 Minutes. She said, quote, "We've been told to aim our reporting at a particular part of the political spectrum. I don't know how to do that." And Bari Weiss was also forced to let her go her newly hired health guru, Peter Attia, um, who was found to be in the Epstein files and had been he made crude jokes about women in there. He was part of the same woman that Tony Dokoupil interviewed. He was one of the 19 so-called contributors, along with that woman that she hired back in January to bring different voices to CBS News. So that's one that's gone. Um, I don't know, Dan. I'm going right back to you on this. It's like CBS is just a shadow of itself. It's heartbreaking. I can't help but think what my dad would have thought, who was on 60 Minutes all those years.
It is sad. And for anybody who's thinking that at some point the Ellisons are going to wake up and say, we need to fix this, I wouldn't be so sure. And this is going to apply to CNN as well. I don't really know that they care. They've got much bigger fish to fry. They've got business before the Trump administration.
Mhm.
They're very concerned about their entertainment empire. And if their news outlets just continue to deteriorate, they might just say, "Well, it's a loss leader for us. As long as we're getting what we want on the entertainment side and raking in those billions and billions of dollars, that's fine with us."
Mhm. You know, Lala, I was actually a little surprised that Bari Weiss went along with the firing of Peter Attia. She tried to hang on to him. And it was actually surprisingly, I think it was the Ellisons who said, no, no, you got to cut him loose because of the Epstein thing. It's like, a lot of other people have sort of survived the Epstein thing. Um, did, was that fireable, do you think? I mean,
I think that with Epstein, there's been this tilt towards firing people or punishing people for association rather than holding them accountable.
mhm.
You're seeing a lot of so and so was in the Epstein files, but billionaire businessmen doing business with other billionaire businessmen is not, they might be doing illegal things, but that in and of itself is not like nefarious. So I have to be honest, I haven't watched CBS regularly in years.
You and
It's
everyone
just
else.
it's just not relevant to me. And so I wonder if what we're going to see is not so much that the news will be a loss leader, but it'll be like with the Washington Post. It's just they're not Bezos isn't holding on to it as a loss leader and it'll bring people into his other businesses. He's holding on to it presumably because he can't shut it down completely outright. But I just don't know how CBS will continue to compete unless what they end up doing is amplifying whatever the Eliasons decide to do on CNN, but on the airwaves for people who aren't willing to pay for cable.
Hmm. Scott?
Oh, yeah. Barry Weiss supposedly, reportedly wanted to, draw a line and hang on to Atia, saying it was cancel culture. But I mean, it wasn't like he said something politically provocative or crossed some sort of line in the culture war. He was associating with a sex offender. So, I mean, unless people are going to say, well, this is great, that we should all, be more understanding of people who want to associate with sex offenders and joke about it. It was really gross, the stuff he was joking about, and he provided medical advice and testing for
Mhm.
uh, Epstein. He talked about how he wished he could talk about Epstein's outrageous lifestyle. So, I mean, I don't, it seems like he must have had an inkling there that this something wasn't right. I mean, this guy wasn't hiding it half. I mean, people are claiming now I didn't see it. Well, come on. I mean, then you're blind, right? I mean, how could you have not seen it? So,
What
Yeah,
was his
and Peter
appeal?
Attia made some really vile comments
Yeah.
to Epstein that we're not going to repeat
no.
here.
What was his appeal in the first place? Anybody know? As a health worker?
A longevity
Oh,
expert. I mean, which is all, I always suspect is all, kind of like quackery, a lot of it, but and these rich guys are like, I want to live forever. And, probably Epstein was getting older and thought he
yeah.
wanted to live longer.
No, yeah, I think he wanted to do whatever the Ted Williams cyber tank thing or whatever that was. I know it's like, I don't know. Yeah,
Awful.
he was looking to live forever. Yeah. All right, moving on. So there is no putting this genie back in the bottle. AI is here to stay, infiltrating every aspect of our lives. That includes news gathering and news writing. The editor of the Cleveland Plain Dealer has gone so far as to declare, basically, she's declared writing is dead. She wants her reporters to collect the facts and leave the writing to AI. That same editor, Chris Quinn, also recently wrote a column criticizing journalism schools, claiming they are out of touch and retrograde when it comes to accepting AI. All right, Dan, I got to start with you because I know you push back on journalism schools. There was a piece recently today in the Boston Globe about Dartmouth College and how they're dealing with it. Basically, they've embraced it. And I think a lot of schools have embraced it. You can't run away from it. But first of all, what's your take on turning your notes over to AI and on how journalism schools are dealing with it?
Well, the idea of turning your notes over to AI and having it write a story for you, that's kind of like that's an edge case that I think Chris Quinn is pushing for that, but I don't think very many other people are. We're making tremendous use of AI at Northeastern, including in our journalism program, but we're trying to figure out what to use it for and what's ethical. It turns out that AI is a better search engine than Google these days. It can go out and find all kinds of interesting information for you. And in terms of the concern about hallucinations, well, you just follow the links. You don't take AI's word for it. So that's a very good use of it. It can help you brainstorm ideas. It can help you draft interview questions. I've done that several times. Um, but when it comes to actually getting it to write your stories for you, that's really the end of the line. Now, in fact, what the Cleveland paper and website are doing is they're using it the way that we used to call the rewrite man. And I say we, this goes way back before my time, where you just have reporters running around the landscape calling in their notes, and the copy desk would write a story from it.
Right.
And, that's fine for certain types of basic stories. You just covered the house fire or the car accident or something like that. But you can't do that for complex feature stories. There's just no way.
Or even coverage of war.
No, that's right. Absolutely not.
Lyle, I'm curious how the Globe has integrated this and what kind of discussions go on about it.
There's a lot of discussions. We have a whole task force about use of AI. The line is pretty brightly drawn in very bright red. We don't use AI for our, it doesn't replace humans. We don't use it for writing. We don't, you can use it as a tool, as a search engine, perhaps. You can use it to generate alternate headlines or to check your SEO. I think for me, my reluctance with AI is probably summed up in the fact that on Twitter, while there was this discussion about what the Cleveland Plain Dealer was doing, Grok, the AI bot for Twitter, said that it was the Globe that had implemented AI
Right.
and had taken writing off of people's plates. And I can confirm that that is not true at all. But the fact that people were running with it
Sure.
because that's what AI told them, I think illustrates why you can't use AI in this way for journalism. The rewrite person, I think that's a good description of what the Cleveland Plain Dealer is trying to do. I saw the discussion flip-flop where people were saying like, no, you need a human to do that writing. Have AI go out and gather the information. somehow, which is the equivalent of sitting at your desk and Googling all the components for your story and then putting it together. You can't do that. You need to talk to people. You need to be in the room. Like the whole point for me, my little idealistic point about journalism is we're supposed to be the eyes and ears in the room in the places where the public cannot go. And that includes places where AI cannot go. And I think that we're being irresponsible by abdicating that responsibility in the name of convenience.
It's fascinating and disturbing at the same time. I mean, it's really in some ways can be a transformational technology. There are definitely some labor saving elements to it that I think anybody could use, and you could probably use in journalism in terms of notes or things like that. But I was looking at the Cleveland paper's website, and they're good stories, but I also wonder, like, if you're no longer writing stories, are you even thinking in those terms? How are you going to develop as a reporter? What's the incentive also to actually then wanting to just go out there and ask questions, and you don't have any, and you're having somebody AI rewrite the story. And also it strikes me a little bit like it's just another one of these cost-cutting efforts by these chains that's just driven local journalism into the ditch. I mean, there's no interest in investing in the product. Let's try something new. I mean, that's what independents are doing now. They're trying to figure things out, but it's just a dead end eventually. I mean, you can't, if the product you're offering is losing, readers or losing subscribers, it's just not going to work at the end.
I will say, I think it's a really excellent tool for certain things, especially data gathering. If you've got um, reams and reams of spreadsheets, having AI go in to pull out things that you can then confirm by going to specific points, that is a great use of it. Using it to write programs that write scripts, great use of that. Scripts not in terms of spoken on the news, but scripts in terms of programs that then go out and execute and do things and pull in other information. I think that's great. But I think that using it as a way to save money and avoid the human element that's so necessary, I just think that that's dangerous.
I've been using it kind of as my private Snopes too, because there's all these conspiracy theories and all this, as you all know,
Mhm.
criticisms of things that turn out to be not true. And I don't know where if it's an aggregate, but I find them most reliable for that kind of stuff too. So,
Well, they're being trained on everything that's out in the internet. So I'd be skeptical about its use as a fact checker because it does still hallucinate. And I think that you still have to human fact check behind the AI fact check.
mhm.
Again, I'm going to go back to Grok. The Globe is not the one that has adopted taking things off of people's plates.
Yeah,
So if people on Twitter go, Grok, is this true? And Grok goes, the Boston Globe is doing it. That's not a reliable fact check,
yeah.
right? So I don't think there's a substitute for human decision making, and that's really what we're supposed to be doing as journalists, right? We're supposed to be filtering this information and helping to prioritize it and asking the questions that sources maybe don't want to answer and digging. And I don't think AI can do that the way humans can do it.
And just to emphasize, Scott, your point, there's nothing like the human emotion of seeing something and reporting it. It's one thing to, call into the rewrite guy, but if
Sure.
you didn't see it for yourself or feel it for yourself,
Mhm.
it's not going to come out in the story.
Right.
Right.
And
You're
by the
not
way,
going to miss
I'm
that.
sorry, Scott.
No, go ahead. Jim. Yep.
I was
You
going
know,
to say to Lila's point, whenever I ask AI for information, I include as part of my query, give me a link.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. A lot of people don't do that though. They don't build their AI assistants with those parameters. They just say, go out and get me the information. And usually they're searching for confirmation, not information. So
Good point.
give me a link, and I take it a step further, give me a link from a reliable news source. And that's a good safeguard to put in place.
yeah, I always look at the links. I mean, I find myself, I mean, because I know at the hallucination issue, especially with stories. I mean, you've had, local papers reporting their, murders that never happened. I mean, it can really go off the rails. And I find myself sometimes frustrated with the format. I mean, I don't I guess I'm just trustful. Like you're giving me this. How much do I know? I really have to check the links. And so I don't know in that form, is it saving me effort or is it making making it harder sometimes to actually get to the original sources? But it's here to stay, unfortunately, I
Yeah.
guess in my view, but
I think this is where we're supposed to say that we welcome our robot overlords, right? For safety reasons.
I do. I mean, it's not going to go away. I don't lament it. Time now for our rants and raves of the week, and I'm going to start with you, Lila.
So I have a rant for the BBC and the way they edited their BAFTA Awards broadcast to remove a homophobic outburst and a mention of Free Palestine, but they chose to leave in the N-word being lobbed as two black actors were on the stage. So the show was taped. It was broadcast on a 2-hour delay, plenty of time for editing. The disability advocate who has Tourette's, John Davidson, shouted a slur at Alan Cummings. That was edited out. During Ekinola Davies Jr.'s acceptance speech, he expressed solidarity for people under occupation and dictatorship, those experiencing genocide, and he said Free Palestine. That was edited out. But when Davidson shouted the N-word at Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, that was kept in. So my rant is not about Davidson. I have a kid with Tourette's. I fully understand the involuntary nature of vocal and physical tics with that disorder. My rant is for the selective editing. There's no reason to leave in the N-word. That's just to cause outrage, or maybe it wasn't considered that offensive to the people editing, but that's what my rant is about.
One quick theory, Tonya, our producer, Tonya Magra, said that maybe because the BAFTA awards have become so irrelevant, nobody pays any attention to them, that they left it in for that reason.
You mean to get attention and outrage?
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. All right, Dan, what do you got?
Well, I have a rant for the Justice Department, which was harshly admonished by federal Judge William Porter for withholding crucial information before Porter approved a raid on the home of Washington Post reporter Hannah Nathanson. The Justice Department should have told Porter about a federal law that prohibited such raids in most circumstances. When this came out later on, an incredulous Porter said to the prosecutor, "Why didn't you raise it?" The prosecutor apologized, but by then it was too late. Now, I have to say, I might have thought that the judge is supposed to know the law without being tipped off by the prosecutor. When I've raised this on social media, I have to say I've gotten smacked down by a number of lawyers who've told me that isn't the way it works. So, double rant for the Justice Department in that case.
Hmm. Yeah, that's still an ongoing case too. It's unclear what they got and where they're going with that, and they still have her stuff too, as I understand.
They do, and the prosecutor wanted to look through her materials, and the judge says, "No, I'm going to look through them first and determine whether there's anything relevant that you're looking for before you get your hands on it."
Wow. All right, Scott, what do you got?
I have a rave for Roger Sullenberger. He's a former Daily Beast reporter and he has his own newsletter. And he's done a lot of the reporting on the Epstein files related to this complaint by a woman who says when she was 13, she was sexually assaulted by Trump and Epstein. It's good reporting. He was able to figure out that the Justice Department had not had released a summary of the interview, but not the interviews themselves with the woman. That also that Ghislaine Maxwell's legal team has those interviews. So it's interesting because it starts to put the pieces together. Okay, so now we know maybe there's some why Ghislaine Maxwell has leverage over Trump, or it seems to have leverage. You can also see why I've always wondered, well, why is he's really obviously freaked out about the release of the files, and this might explain it. Anybody can, and there's always a concern. I mean, somebody making this accusation, it doesn't mean it's, that it's founded in fact or reality, but his reporting seems to show that the FBI certainly treated this as a serious accusation, or at least was worthy of investigating. So, and now we have the Iran war. So, I mean, that's a big distraction, and no one's talking about the Epstein files right now. So,
Yeah, but you're right. A lot of people picked up on Roger Sullenberger's story, so it became mainstream media after he dug into it. All right, well, finally today, I have a rant for the Today Show, and I understand solidarity and sympathy, but all the on-air people are wearing these yellow ribbons, which is, traditionally a simple, you know, a symbol of, acknowledgement. That's in like when the Iran hostages. That's my first time I remember it, but it's a bad precedent. I mean, you're going to start wearing a yellow ribbon for everybody, all the servicemen who are killed in Iran. And also, if you did it one day, just to show that you understood what your colleague is going through, fine. But now what are they going to do? Here we're into week 4, and are they going to keep doing it? At some point, somebody's going to say, I think we got to stop doing this. But they've set a bad precedent, and is it going to be years? So I hate to be, the bad guy here, but I think enough's enough. Everybody else is going, yeah, I think you're right. All right. That's it for this edition of Beat the Press. Catch us on Contrarian Boston, of course, or on YouTube. We're on YouTube now. Thanks to Scott Van Voorhees, Dan Kennedy, Lila Alphonse. I'm Emily Rooney.
The audio preview.